Hi everybody, it's Michael Hollands for Son of the Movies. Today I have the pleasure to once again be joined by Harry Gregson-Williams. Today we are here to discuss his work on The Equalizer 2, directed by Antoine Fuqua and starring Denzel Washington. Welcome back, Harry.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Harry, you had worked with Antoine Fuqua for the first time in 1998 when you did The Replacement Killers, and of course in 2014 you scored The Equalizer. As this is your third film together, would you say that it has become any easier to collaborate or to find a common ground music-wise?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's always when one has sort of repeat business, as it were. It's always things always become a little easier. You get to know someone a bit better, get to know his sensibilities. You get to know read his body language a little bit better. I think it's always interesting working for someone for the first time, as we did on The Replacement Killers. I think that might have been his first feature film, and it was certainly my first action film that I'd scored, alone. That is not. It wasn't a collaboration with Hans or someone else at Media Ventures. That was an interesting moment. And I felt like I learned a lot from that film, and from that position we. He went off and made many films and used different composers after that. And for whatever reason, 4 or 5 years ago, he circled back and asked me to do The Equalizer, which was a really good fit. And I was really ready to work with him again. And so I'm very happy that he had me back for the sequel.
Great. I mean, I love the first Equalizer. I mean, both film and also your very good score. And what I loved about the first movie was that it's not a action picture which you get to see a lot these days. It's not a contemporary action picture, so there's no action overkill. The story kind of is told calmly and discreetly. And in this film, Robert McCall, as I understand, seeks revenge on those who killed his friend Susan Plummer, who he had worked with in the CIA. What can the audience expect in this film?
Well, there's you're right. The Equalizer, the first movie, and this movie, they're not straight up and down action movies. There's plenty of action that takes place, but it's not your typical Hollywood variety. I did actually. Antoine did tell me that. I think he might have told me this as related to the first movie, but he did tell me that Denzel was clear that whatever his character did. Denzel, as an actor, wanted to be able to at least 98% be able to do that. So Denzel didn't want to be involved in a visual effects, a special effects type of movie where unbelievable things happen. Now, he's virtually got superhuman powers, his character, because he does seem to be able to get the upper hand on a group of people pretty quickly. But so it isn't a straight up and down Hollywood action movie. It's not thousands of extras, and there are not a lot of visual effects shots in it. So it's kind of steeped in reality, which I liked about it. The sequel continues in that vein. We find out a lot more about Denzel's character's origins, really, and about what drives him, and particularly about his relationship with a former boss of his, and through that, the plot develops. But also, as with the first one, the major storyline in this one is an emotional one. Is a connection that Denzel feels. In the first movie, it was the Chloe Moretz character.
Yeah.
He felt that there were other things going on in the movie, but the central emotional kind of arc concerned him wanting to save this girl from herself and from these nasty Russian types. In this movie, she's not in this movie. That's a different storyline. So in this movie, it concerns a boy, a lad. I guess he's 18 or 20 or something like that. No, he's still at school, so he's probably 18 years old, and he lives in the same kind of apartment building or vicinity as Denzel's character, and Denzel can see that he has potential as a youth, but he's being easily led astray into a life of crime, drugs, guns, things like this. And this Denzel's character decides he really has to try and put this boy on a straight path to redemption and not allow him to get sucked into the easy way, which would be, as I say, a life of crime. And I actually, speaking to Denzel about it, I think I wouldn't be wrong in saying that one of the reasons that Denzel agreed to do a sequel, wanted to do the sequel, was this particular story thread that involved his character caring enough to want to go out of his way and put himself in dangerous way in order to help save this boy from himself. Really, it's not actually the central plot of the movie, which I won't talk about right now. But it's a major subplot, and it's what brings the emotion to the film, not in a sentimental way at all, but in a really real way. Denzel has a couple of really, really amazing scenes with him where he's yelling into this boy's face to act honorably, sensibly, and to pull himself out of this path that he seems to be going down. And from a musical point of view, I was able to tap into that. And there's a timbre of music that often accompanies scenes that Denzel has with this young character. That is an emotional tug that we've not had in its new music to the Equalizer franchise, shall we say? And then for McCall's character, I was able to expand on the thematic material that I'd already created for the first movie, and push that out a little bit to its outer limits, but melodically retain some of what I'd created, so that I basically did what I think the film's trying to do, which is to fill in the character of McCall. There are plenty of unanswered questions, even at the end of this movie, but there are a lot of questions that one might have had at the end of the last movie. Where did he come from? Who was his wife? What was his relationship with his family? And what was his relationship with these people that he used to work with? And why did he stop working for them? So a lot of the circumstances that Denzel's character finds himself in gradually become apparent as the movie goes forward. But they're not the crux of the story. Involves something quite different. But it's exciting. It's a real thriller. And one never quite knows which way it's going to go. But it was really, really fun to do. And I've been involved in a few sequels before. The Narnia movies, the Shrek movies, and they're not easy to do from a musical point of view. I'm sometimes not quite sure how much one should retain of what one created in the first time round. But it's made a lot easier by the sequel of Equalizer coming along. And as I say, it has an emotional beat. Mm-hmm. And a personal story that wasn't there before, wasn't necessary in the first one. So I was able to tap into that quite a lot.
Okay, so you basically reprised some material, also created new themes, motifs. The first Equalizer score was very hybrid-like, many, you use many strings, and also, of course, many synth elements, which you have become, quite known for. And I think you're, one of the best out there anyway, but especially when it comes to combining electronics with the orchestra. So do you think it is still kind of, 50-50, still hybrid, or did you, expand on the orchestra a little bit?
No. It is. I don't know about the percentage, but Michael, but it's definitely a hybrid score, and that's what seemed and felt the most true to what was going on screen. Having said that, some of the harsher, more violent elements of the story, I was able to juxtapose musically, so that as I told you, there is quite a big emotional beat going on throughout the film. And I think there's quite an unexpected use of a very emotional tune, which is led by a cello solo often. But is that accompanied with strings? Sometimes. But it's also surrounded with some much harsher elements. And in some ways, that's what gives the McCall, his character really.
Yeah.
He's a kind of complex guy. He's not really one thing or the other. And there
Yeah.
are still, as I say, there are still elements of his story that are yet to be told. I mean, I don't know whether they're planning on another one, but I should think it really depends how this one goes. But that's what's rather nice about the way that Antoine's made these films, is that they don't put all their cards on the table straight away. There are questions left lingering,
Yeah.
and the music can work quite hard at filling in some of those points, and also leaving those as question marks.
Yeah, but I also think, as you just mentioned, the strings and the cello, those instruments give his character, more warmth and also more depth. As it makes him more human.
Absolutely, I was able to retain and build on the original theme that I'd written, which I think mostly appears as piano in the first movie. But then inevitably there are different moods and different scenarios that have to be covered with music in this second film. So there was no one spot where music could sit just perfectly from the first movie and just slot it into the second one. It didn't really happen like that. Which was a blessing as well, because one got to create new stuff. But it's definitely from the same family, shall we say.
Okay. Speaking of cello, did you bring back Martin Tillman on this one?
Yeah, Martin does play a role in this, but actually I was referring to, when I said solo cello, I didn't mean electric cello. This is very much acoustic cello, but played in quite a brutal way sometimes. played with a lot of feeling and a lot of energy. There's a cellist in London called Peter Gregson who played, and also the lead cellist over here in LA, Steve Adobe, who played a large part. So I used a number of different soloists in different ways. Martin Tillman does appear in the score on his electric cello, as does George Deering with electric guitar. Yeah, there's plenty going on there. But there's quite a tapestry of musical sound in which to cover really here, because the emotions are really quite distinct, and they're quite far from each other. There's a lot of pain and sadness, and there are a few quite still, reflective scenes, and then there are some quite brutally violent, exciting scenes. And then the denouement of this movie takes place in a huge storm, massive windstorm, howling wind, and crashing waves, and pouring rain. So it's very, very dramatic, and the music had to find its way, forward as to how I could complement that without getting in the way of that.
Great. Harry, one album-related question. Equalizer 1 had some cues and arrangements not used in the final film. McCall's Decision was one piece where you added some string elements which didn't make it into the film, and also the piece On a Mission, for which you used some great synth elements, also wasn't present in the film. What's it like on the new album, Equalizer 2? Does the album feature material which is not used?
No, I think I actually did record some pieces which I had originally written, which didn't end up in the film. Mm-hmm. And I recorded them and mixed them as if I was going to put them in the album. But somehow this time it didn't feel like I should be putting them on. I don't know why. I didn't feel that they were quite right to put on the album. So no, I think everything on the album exists in the film.
Okay. It's going to be a 14-piece album, if I'm not mistaken. How much music ended up on the album?
What you mean in minutes? I don't know. 40 or 50 minutes, probably.
40, 50.
40 or 50. Yeah. I'm usually not too long-winded about these things. I don't think you go to a Harry Gregson-Williams album and expect it to be 82 minutes long, or a double album with a bonus other album following. No, I tend to try and put the best 40 or 50 minutes forward, and hope that people like it. Yeah, and I'm sure it's not. I don't recall the exact minutage, but it definitely doesn't overstay its welcome. Or I hope it doesn't. I don't know.
I'm absolutely looking forward to hearing the full album and also seeing the movie. Did you feel when you wrote for the film that there was a certain struggle when you wrote for certain emotional scenes or action sequences, or let's put it that way, a struggle to balance music and sound effects?
No, not really. Especially when McCall gets down to his particular business. At several moments in the film, he clicks his stopwatch on his watch on, and he in a very short space of time he dispatches whichever people he needs to dispatch. Now, the sounds that you hear there are usually a combination of what I'm providing and what the sound effects editor is. And we found that worked for us on the first one. So that's what happens in the second one. I told you that the denouement of this movie does take place during a huge storm. But again, we are very careful when we're dubbing the movie to feature music in certain places for certain reasons, and to feature sound effects in other places. So this isn't going to sound like an offense to your ears. We had a really good dubbing mixer and a very fine sound effects team, and I think we all did our best to craft the sound of this movie, the finished product, as well as we possibly could. It's not an assault on the ears at all, this, but there's good, really cool sound in there. I mean, I remember when I first watched the film, being really impressed with how far on they'd got with sound effects. Because often when a composer comes to these things, I might be working with temporary sound for forever, if not for the whole process. And obviously one's got to take the sound effects into account and be able to manage the music to work with the sound effects, not without. So it was actually really handy to have. They must have started work on this movie earlier than usual, I think, because when I got my first work tape to be able to start work on this thing, there were some really beautifully layered, interesting sound effects on some of these action sequences, and I was able to weave my stuff in and out. And as I say, Antoine decided very early on we weren't ever going to have music and sound competing against each other. Far from it. We'd feature music in certain moments, and we'd feature sound in other moments, and hopefully come up with the best ingredients for the best moments.
How much time did you actually have to write for a picture?
Oh, plenty of time. A normal, usual amount of time. I don't know, 3 or 4 months. Yeah. About 10 or 16 weeks, something like that. It was good. It was a good time to do it. I didn't have to hurry, except for when I did have to hurry, which is always going to happen. But there was plenty of time for experimentation and for testing the water with Antoine. So no, in that respect, it was very, very good.
Did you record it in Los Angeles, or did you fly back to London for this one?
No, this was a union film. Had to be done here at Sony. So that was a great joy. I loved recording at Sony. But, a lot of the score was recorded out of my studio. That's how, all the guitars, all the drum programming, all this sort of stuff. A lot of the solo instruments, albeit a solo cello, solo piano, guitars, that sort of stuff were they're written and recorded in my studio here in Los Angeles. And so when that's complete, and when it's safe to go record strings, and by that I mean safe, I mean the picture's settled down, it's not being edited too frenetically at that point, and the director's happy with the way everything's going, then we'll dive into a studio, whether it's Abbey Road or Sony. Well, it was Sony on this occasion, and go and grab the orchestral elements that we need, and then I bring them back into my studio, and I mix them how I felt I wanted them within all my synths and my other elements. And then I'd record my score out of my room, my composing room, for the last time, with all the elements on separate tracks, and I take it to my mix room, which is not the same as my compose room, which is at the Village Studios in West LA. And I had a chap who's mixed a few of my scores mix it. His name's Al Clay. He's hugely experienced, and he's going to bring a different layer, a different production value to these things. And so we I always find it handy to get to get another set of ears, so that it's not just all coming from me the whole time. So another set of ears, and that's how it went. And it's always actually quite a relief to me to do that, because it always signifies that I must be quite near the end. If I'm in my mix room, I must have pretty much written everything. So that's obviously a relief.
So there weren't many cut changes, because many composers say, well, at the 11th hour they still re-edited, they made several adjustments.
Yeah, well, one just has to deal with that. It's not a big deal. On this film actually had a very calm post-production process.
Okay.
Not typical at all. Not typical of a Hollywood movie. Typically, as you say, things are changing right to the last minute, and they seem to change beyond the last minute. But no, we went through the whole process of testing the film in front of audiences, and audiences really liked it. They really liked it. There's not much not to like about Denzel Washington, I gotta say. I could watch him all day long in my studio. He's so natural. He's so he never seems to be acting to me. He seems to just be the person he wants to be. But so it was actually a very blessed project. This it didn't seem to have. It didn't seem to have the issues that many of these films tend to have. A pacing issue, a length issue, storyline problems. None of these things cropped up.
The sequel is actually a bit longer than the first one, right? About 140, maybe 10 minutes longer than the first one?
That I don't know the details of that, but it feels, I've obviously watched the film countless times, but I watched the finished film quite recently at the final dub, and it seemed to whiz by to me. And I think it's just the right pace.
Great. Did Antoine Fuqua actually ask you to prioritize certain scenes?
No, not at all. No, not at all. He's very respectful and patient, and he could see that I was working away, and whenever I would call him and say, "Can you come over to my studio and listen to something?" he'd be there in a flash. So no, he's not bossy like that. He's very much up for you, encouraging you to get the best work out of you, and you've got to do it how best. He's very good like that.
Okay, so he basically also provides lots of leeway for you to kind of experiment, find the right tone, and
yeah. Well, I mean, this is a sequel. The tone wasn't difficult to find, but
sure.
the added elements, yeah. So yeah, but he's very understanding in that respect.
Do you have any favorite moments when working with Antoine?
Yeah, actually, when we were at Sony doing the strings, I can't remember how it came about, but we were in a break. I'd already done, I think, a 3-hour session in the morning with the string orchestra. We were taking a break in the afternoon for lunch, and someone, a music editor or someone on the scoring stage I didn't know very well, asked me something about Antoine, which I didn't know the answer to. It was something to do with where he'd been born or something like that, something personal, and I didn't know the answer. So I popped onto IMDb just to see if I could find the answer to whatever question it was they had, which was a pretty simple question, and I realized I didn't know the answer. But whilst on IMDb, I noticed that particular day was his birthday, and no one on the stage seemed to know or probably care. But so I was able to. I had he was coming to the stage. He hadn't been there in the morning. He was coming to the stage to listen to what I was up to in the afternoon. So I was able to brief the orchestra on that. And when I brought him in front of the orchestra to introduce him, they burst into a rendition of Happy Birthday.
Right.
For him, and he was really. I've never seen him so shocked. But he was a very special moment for him. I mean, imagine, you've got a symphony orchestra playing your Happy Birthday, and he probably walked in there thinking, no one knows or even cares it's my birthday, but hello, yeah, they did. So that was great fun. That was a great moment to cherish, actually.
Great. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Harry, do you have anything else to add on the Equalizer? What in terms of what the audience should gear up for, or
I think you'll find that the second movie doubles down on a lot of what made the first one good, but it has other elements to it, and it has a different, a slightly wider ranging appeal, I think. It's a thriller. It is part action movie, and it does have an emotional beat, but it also has it answers questions that you didn't even know that you had. When I saw the movie for the first time, I was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool to know about that." So it's almost like it's not an origin story, and it doesn't really set out to do that. But it does give you the feeling that this character who you felt you knew pretty well, but you're getting to know him really much better now. And when that character happens to be played by Denzel Washington, it's a good feeling. It's a nice feeling.
Right. I mean, when I was watching the first part, I already suspected that due to his special training and the skills he has, he must have been working for some kind of either intelligence agency or some other form of agency. And actually, they they kind of expose more information as the film progresses, especially when he visits his colleague, the Melissa Leo's character, and then they kind of they hint that he might have been a long time CIA employee. And I had many questions when I was watching it, and I hope they will be answered this time, or at least some of them.
Sure, I think they will. I think you'll enjoy it. If you like the first one, I think you'll like this better.
I love the first one.
I think this is a better film all round. So I'm excited to see what everybody makes of it.
Great. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. And Harry, one last question. You have been very busy recently. Not only did you do the Equalizer, you also did the LA Confidential TV series. And so, can you already disclose what's next for you?
I can't really. It's it's in the pipeline, and I'll let you know when I can let you know. But it's suffice to say, I'm extremely happy about it, and I can't wait to start. That's no use to you, is it? You can cut that out.
Okay. Do you have anything else on your mind? Anything else you would like to add?
No, I think that's it. Enjoy the movie.
I certainly will. Harry, thank you so much for taking so much time out of your busy schedule. I really enjoyed talking to you again. And let's do this soon again.
Okay, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Bye, Harry.